Welcome to the Geek Homeworld. I am your host, SavageTechman. We talk sci-fi, TV, movies, superheroes, and all from a geek perspective. You can find us on Blogger, Google+, Twitter, Facebook. We're everywhere. Join the Geek Homeworld. On this episode, we are talking about the growing impact that women are having on geek culture, so I thought I'd bring in a real expert, Lauren Warren of the website Black Girl Nerds, which won the 2013 Best Podcast Award at the Black Weblog Awards. Welcome, Lauren, to the Geek Homeworld.
Thank you very much for having me.
And we're talking here about empowerment of women in geekdom. First topic, do you feel like book writers and film and television producers are paying more attention to female consumers now than versus years before?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's been a huge rallying cry for more focused, directed content. It tends to be that men are sort of the default when it comes to being the audience, the intended audience, and as far as being the actual creators. And that's changing. We're making progress. It's not leaps and bounds, but it's still progress. You have women of power in positions of power at networks and studios making programming decisions. And you have more women who are taking content creation into their own hands. So because of that, there's definitely an increase of what we're seeing put out right now.
Right. And it's even changed the dynamic of how comics are drawn. How some of the characters are drawn. They're not totally from the male perspective.
Right. And
through Black Girl Nerds, y'all are promoting the positive things about women.
Oh yes, it's our mission statement. It's really her mission statement to create safe, inclusive spaces that are really to empower women of all colors, women of all races. And to amplify the voices of those who are content creators themselves, and just to give everyone a place and space to shine.
And you're changing the face, or helping to change the face of what a geek or nerd, and I prefer geek because I was a nerd when nerd wasn't cool. And,
right.
But you're changing the face of what a geek is. It's not just some white guy living in his parents' basement.
Right. Geeks come in all shapes, sizes, colors, and we are all geeks. We are all geeks in some way, whether we call ourselves that or not. If you enjoy a particular fandom, if you enjoy, a certain video game or a television show or
right.
whatever, I know if we're so much changing the face as much as more as it's more bringing light that there are more faces than we previously thought before.
What do you think has motivated some of the book writers of comics and everything female-wise, or what should really be motivating them?
Well, our purchasing power and is just the same as everyone else's. And if ultimately the point is to put something out for consumers to consume, you need to appeal to all consumers.
Yes.
My dollar is just as powerful as your dollar, and it's just as powerful as my neighbor's dollar. And if you are putting content out, why not throw out a little something for everyone to enjoy? Male and female, young and old. I think a lot of it comes down to money. And I think also when you are hearing multiple cries and multiple demands for, more inclusive and diverse content,
right.
You can't really ignore it. You're almost at a point where you have a responsibility to produce, and you have to ignore those calls for more inclusive content would be it's just a really bad business decision. Yes. And I know that people aren't, like I said, the changes aren't being done in leaps and bounds, but things are changing, and change is always great. I know it makes people uncomfortable, but it's always great to see it.
Change is always worse for those who have to go through it.
Right. Exactly.
But
exactly.
It's great to see that diversity, and this country is becoming more that way. And there's untapped markets of potential. There are movies now that are more geared towards the black culture that we're seeing are like Straight Outta Compton coming out. And I know this is a little off the subject, but that was a major hit that the studio
Right.
underestimated how powerful that was across different races. And
Right.
it's good to see that.
Well, we reached a point where, our entertainment should look like the world we live in.
Sure.
And there's always that sort of assumption that perhaps content geared toward Black audiences doesn't sell. And I'm glad that Straight Outta Compton shattered that notion this past summer. I mean, shattered it completely. So, as long as we keep making material that looks like the world we live in, things will get better.
Well, an example of that, but it didn't work so well just because I think of the bad production and the problems they had, but the Fantastic Four movie that came out had incredible diversity in it.
Yeah, but if you have a diverse cast but a bad script...
Yeah. If you got a bad script, it's going to fail.
You can only do so much with the material you're given. So if you're not given great material, there's only so much you can do.
Right. Some good actors in that movie. It just was not the right production.
It didn't quite come together. Right.
So what series or genre, since we're shifting to that? Marvel, DC, The Walking Dead, what Star Trek, Star Wars, what are you into? What are some of your favorite?
Well, some of mine. I'm a Marvel fan, a huge Marvel fan.
Mm-hmm.
I love zombies. I love my zombies. Love sci-fi. Sci-fi has always kind of been the one genre you can go to for a huge ensemble cast with strong writing. Star Wars and Star Trek, have a long history of doing so. And occasionally sci-fi tends to fall behind in terms of having a diverse cast. Mm-hmm. But lately there have been shows to sort of counteract that. Like I believe Sci-Fi had Killjoys and Dark Matter. Those were excellent sci-fi shows that had very diverse casts. Sci-fi tends to do well as far as the diversity. And of course, I'm a huge fan of The Walking Dead. And despite recently
mm-hmm.
angering a whole legion of fans, they have a strong ensemble cast.
Yes.
They put emphasis on both the male and female leads. I know recently there was an episode that featured Carol very prominently in almost this warrior mode.
Yes.
Which is great considering in the beginning of the series she was one of the meekest characters around. I've started watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Of course, I've seen all of the Avengers and Captain America, Iron Man, caught up on all those. But I find that S.H.I.E.L.D. has, again, the ensemble cast, strong female leads, excellent writing, great acting. I particularly am quite fond of Ming-Na's Melinda May.
Yes,
She's
definitely.
well written, fleshed out. I mean,
she will kick your ass. I've got to say it. May will kick your ass.
You won't see it coming. You won't see it coming.
But on talking about The Walking Dead, early on I was like, really? Are all the women in this series going to be washing clothes while the men are out killing zombies? And then Michonne came along, and I was like, oh my, that is my favorite character. So, for everybody who's staring at a dumpster right now, wondering if Glenn somehow is going to make it out, as I saw that on the internet, I was like, when he gave the speech, I was like, oh no, Glenn's going to die. I just know it.
Of course.
But then there was a hint that Michonne was going. I said, oh, they better not have killed Michonne. And as much as I like Glenn, I was like, you better not kill Michonne. You're not going to kill Carol, because Michonne and Carol, they're very strong characters. And that's what really draws me to them, to see a strong female character out there, and now more than one, obviously. And they don't have to be the victim. You can be white, black, you can be Martian. Welcome to our Martian overlords.
Exactly. I mean, if there are qualities that are, they're relatable in some aspects, but they also represent, what we wish we could and would do in such dire circumstances. They're not without fault. Carol could stand to bring it down a peg or two sometimes. But I love the juxtaposition of her putting a casserole in the oven and then going out and completely slaughtering these people. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the episode, ding, timer goes off, casserole's done. I mean, that was brilliant. And you can tell that episode was written by a woman. I don't recall if it was directed by a woman, but a woman writer can put those little touches on that and make it a very powerful episode.
Do you think that these changes are having a positive or negative impact on male audiences?
I don't think it would impact the audience in terms of, taking choices away. I know there are a few who are uncomfortable with the increasing presence of women on their screens or in their video games or in their movies, in their fandom in general. But I don't think, again, making the fictional world look like the real world has any long-term implications on our entertainment. I think it's just one more positive step in making sure that what we put out reflects the world we live in. And it definitely won't take away from choices available to male audiences. They've been the default again for years. They will probably continue to be the default for some time. And there's no shortage of material to choose from.
What more could or should be done to continue broadening that audience?
I don't think I've ever known people to shy away from great writing, great storytelling, and great acting. I think as long as that part continues, and sometimes it's harder for some people to get the balance down, but as long as you have those three things, I think franchises will continue to grow and the audience will grow too. And you can, and they'll increase their staying power. And it doesn't matter what format you're talking about, whether it's television or film or Netflix or a web series.
Right.
Again, the great writing, the storytelling, the acting is there. And also knowing how to market to your audience, knowing your audience, knowing how to market to the audience is key. All the technology that we have now, ads on TV and radios, of course, one of the ways you can let people know what you're out there, what you're doing, what you're selling, what product you have. But, take full advantage of social media. Have cast and crew use it to build hype about your project or increase awareness about guest stars and whatnot. Host live tweeting sessions. That's one thing Black Girl Nerds does very well, and we do it a lot, is that we hold live tweeting sessions based on a television show. You have certain hashtags geared toward the show. Right. And many times the cast and crew will join in and use that hashtag that we created in order to promote the show. There are so many ways, there's so many countless free ways of connecting with the audience and keeping them engrossed in what you're doing and what your mission is. But the key is to start using it. Social media is one of the best tools out there, and viewers always appreciate it. They really do. When you join in, when they join in for the fun, even if it's just a tweet or two of appreciation or joking around, it lets the audience know they care.
Okay, here's something out of left field a little bit, but who is your favorite female character right now of all publications, all science fiction? Who's your one person?
I have to pick one.
Yes. That's like, which child do you love the best? I can love
exactly. Them all. Oh my goodness. Wow. I might have to go back into the archives for this one and think about who sort of wowed me maybe as a child. But I remember, and I was probably far too young to watch this in theaters, but I remember watching it. My mother took me to go see Aliens.
Ooh.
And I saw Sigourney Weaver as Ellen Ripley on stage or on the screen. And I remember leaving and wanting to play pretend aliens. Like I wanted the power loader. I wanted a gun. I wanted to be Ellen Ripley for a Halloween. That was kind of when I fell in love with sci-fi as well.
Well, that's when I saw her, that great performance, but I was probably in the corner shaking and like, why did I see aliens? That's scary.
So I'd say definitely, I'd say Ellen Ripley, but Sarah Connor would be a very close second. Because as a teenage, I was 12 or 13 when Terminator 2 came out. And, it was James Cameron, and those both had James Cameron as director, so I guess he had a hand in it.
Yes.
But seeing that warrior woman, something about a warrior woman really spoke to me as a kid. So I'd say between the two of them, those would be my favorites.
Can you tell us a bit about Black Girl Nerds and who your audience is?
Sure. Well, Jamie started Black Girl Nerds circa 2012. Story goes, she was, just trying to find if there were other people of her ilk out there in the world. She did a Google search for Black Girl Nerds and turned up no results. And as such, took it upon herself to kind of grab that domain and create that community. And really, Black Girl Nerds is a place for women of color with, various eccentricities to express themselves and just really embrace who they are. But because the name is Black Girl Nerds, it does not mean that it's exclusively for Black women. It is for all nerdy women of every ilk, and for the men who appreciate us and love us as well.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your insights, Lauren. Our listeners can check out Black Girl Nerds at blackgirlnerds.com and follow you guys on Twitter at Black Girl Nerds.
Yes.
Geek Homeworld Review Preview.
At last, we have a television series about Supergirl. To help me review the premiere episode, I'm joined again by friend of the podcast, Lauren Warren of Black Girl Nerds blog. Hey,
Hello,
Lauren.
thanks for having me.
What are your first impressions right off the bat of Supergirl?
I thought it was actually pretty good. I was shocked that I liked it. Not to say I don't like my superheroes, but I tend to like the darker, grittier things, but I appreciated that this was not dark and gritty. I thought it was a great show. It even kept my husband from a hockey game, and Canadian not watching a hockey game is pretty major. So it was really, really good.
My first impression of Supergirl was I liked the humor in it. I liked that she's quirky. And one of the things in there, one of the key things, her boss, who's a very powerful woman, and I don't know if you've seen Devil Wears Prada. I did see it, and then, I've had flashbacks, because that reminded me of her boss, how powerful she was, and she was very demanding and dismissive of kind of everybody for her success. And she names Supergirl, and Supergirl Kara, she says, shouldn't it be Superwoman and all that, and talking about empowerment of women, and she was really getting into her spiel about that, and she says, well, I'm a girl and I'm successful. Do you have a problem with a girl? And she says, no.
Right. Any problems from that are with you and not with the name.
Exactly.
Right.
I did enjoy it, and I did read that they're going to make each episode like a mini movie, which is very interesting.
That's great. Like little self-contained movies every week, so you're not quite sure what's going to happen. It keeps it fresh, keeps the audience guessing as to what's going to happen. Definitely won't run the risk of getting stale. I mean, you got to have your supervillain, got to have her heroic moment, her moment to shine. And anytime we can get a glimpse of the new Jimmy Olsen, that's always a plus.
And once again, diversity there.
Yes.
And I love it. It's like in Man of Steel, Perry White is not white, even though his name is Perry White. He doesn't have to be white, so that works.
Exactly.
How do you rank this show, Supergirl, with other shows like Arrow, Flash, and Gotham?
I have to admit, I just started watching Arrow recently. I'm a little behind.
It can be very confusing. It's like two shows with the flashbacks, and I must admit, I don't watch the flashback parts as much.
I watched the most recent episode that aired. It was directed by Lexi Alexander, and I'm a huge fan of her work. Okay. So I tuned in for that episode, and I've watched maybe a few episodes from season 1. But I know right off the bat, it's Supergirl is not as dark and as gritty.
Right.
I know the Flash is a little bit darker in tone as well, but not as dark as Arrow. Gotham, I have to admit, lost me a little early on. I wasn't quite sure what the show was trying to do, and I think even they've acknowledged that as well.
Right.
And are starting over, or sort of retooled it for season 2, I should say. But Supergirl is a lot more lighthearted from what I've seen. Definitely something that appeals to the young girls, young and old, but definitely, I remember seeing pictures of little girls with their capes and their Supergirl shirts and with their arms in the air ready to fly. And I don't think Arrow has that impact. I don't think the Flash has that impact. So it was great to see.
You have failed your city.
Basically. Basically.
The Flash is very true to the comics. It's been very good. Gotham's very dark. Supergirl, like Man of Steel wasn't, should be, Superman should be, Supergirl should be more lighthearted anyway. It should be brighter and with hope. Are you going to keep watching Supergirl?
I will. Whenever a new show comes on, I tend to give it the 3-episode run, but I do see myself going further than 3 episodes with this. Definitely.
I definitely am going to watch it. Does it rank as my highest? No, it does not. Right now, it's like choosing your children, which one you like the best.
Right.
They all have different personalities, Arrow, Flash, Gotham.
Exactly.
Well, thank you again, Lauren, for joining us. And again, listeners, you can check out blackgirlnerds.com. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Geek Homeworld podcast with your host, SavageTechman. You can find us on Libsyn, Google+, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, listen to us on iTunes, see us on YouTube, be part of our Mixler chats. Thank you. See you again on the Geek Homeworld podcast.
Geek Homeworld.